You know, you can have anything you want if you learn how to manage your mind properly. So this isn't BS. I know it sounds like it because I've been in a place where I have been so bummed out and just living to survive that I had no faith that anything would actually work to get me out of that funk. So when I found this course, it changed my life. So ever since then, I've been researching and refining it so I can provide it to you guys, so you guys do not have what happened to me happen to you. So first, let me tell you about how the power of your mind is not BS. It is, I know that we hear it through we've heard it our whole lives, but let me tell you, if you can believe in a self-fulfilling prophecy in a negative aspect, a negative situation, such as I can explain it pretty logically by, we all know someone who continues to choose to date the wrong person, and they continuously go for the wrong person, right? And then sometimes they fight to get out of the relationship and they go right back into another relationship just like the one, and you're watching it like a car wreck. You know, you can't stop it. You're like, no, why are you doing this? Well, because we get comfortable, human beings, we're creatures of habit, I guess is the common phrase. So what that means is our brains create neural networks, and that is how we form habits. So we become comfortable completing our habits. So when we go into somebody who continuously goes into a dysfunctional relationship, it's very possible they're very comfortable in dysfunction. So they kind of seek it, or then they know that what to expect. So I mean, they are literally in the back of their mind, they know it's not going to work, because you can ask them, you know, deep down inside. I mean, yeah, you get them on a different day, they're in love and they're going to get married and they'll be together forever, but deep down inside, they know that these relationships don't last forever. So the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is to kind of envision how powerful a self-fulfilling prophecy is. Somebody who is in that situation typically doesn't feel very good about themselves and doesn't believe that they deserve to be in a healthy relationship. And what then happens is if somebody normal goes to tries to date them, they get scared and they run, because they don't know what to do in a healthy relationship. It scares them, and they say, oh my gosh, he had brown shoes on with black pants, I can't date a guy with, meanwhile, you know, the jerk with the beer belly with, you know what I'm saying. So it's just, we get comfortable. So what the point is, self-fulfilling prophecies work so well negative, they also work well on the positive end too. So when you are aiming to achieve success, and I hope you are, you've already achieved it. So end of story, you're there. But I know it's a lot deeper than that, and it's a lot more intense than that, because that's another issue. There are no quick fixes. Just get that into your head. I am guilty of trying. I'm not gonna lie. I paid a lot of money for some kind of treatment a few years ago. I mean, I could have bought a car, probably not a Mercedes, but I could have bought a car. But so I get it, and I read reviews and people are like, oh, I love it, I just love it, I can't live without it, it's so great. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna work. It didn't do anything. So why your thoughts are the most, and you managing your mindset is the most important skill that you can have, is because that is what's going to forward you with any other skill. So if you want to lose weight, your mind has to be right so you can get to the gym or care about yourself enough to eat healthy. If you want to get in a healthy relationship, your mind has to be right so you can choose the right healthy person for you for a lasting relationship. If you want to advance in your career, your mind has to be right so you're not jealous and envious of your competitors or coworkers. They're coworkers. You want to see others succeed. So your mind, and eventually people will find you out, and you don't want to be the toxic person in the office. So what happened to me was, a few years ago, I finally got into, let me rewind a little bit. So I had trauma in my life as a child. So I went to therapy. So I was very experienced with therapy by the time I went to my bachelor's program and then my master's program and graduated. I then experienced that industry from a different angle, and then I started working in the mental health industry. However, I had zero confidence in my skills that I could help anybody. I figured I can't even help myself, and who would want me to even try? So I was like, I did admissions. I got promoted to marketing, and that I convinced myself was my dream job. I'm not a marketer, I'm not a salesperson, but at the time I didn't know who I was. I'll get there. Okay, so I also identified myself with my job because I loved saying, oh, I'm in marketing. And I made pretty good money, and I just felt very comfortable there. But like I said, I'm not a salesperson. I know marketing's different now. When I literally had to drive my car 3 hours and go sell people. So face to face, not like a sale like buy now, but send your patients to our facility. So the marketing. And I was stressed out, and I do tend to get to be a little bit of a perfectionist, so I wasn't sleeping. I was trying so hard, but it just was not me. My heart wasn't really in it either. I went to school because I wanted to help trauma victims who were like me, and I wanted to make a difference. So, I didn't feel that I was kind of in denial about it, but So anyway, so then a family emergency occurred, and my grandmother, my favorite person, who raised me, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which I know, because we study that's a death sentence. That's what it was to me. So she lived 3 hours south of me, and she was doing things like not throwing the garbage away on garbage day, so the gnats, a chicken, she would be in the garage for a couple, who knows how long. I know it's pretty gross, but she wasn't okay to live on her own. So she did agree to move in with me. So we got a home together. I was marketing, and at that point, she just said, and she wasn't even trying to look like care that she had it together anymore. She just said, I don't care. So with her, and she just stopped taking her meds. So now she needed diabetic needles, insulin shots. So so she had a long-term care policy which paid for granny nannies and the home health care. And let me tell you, they're not all bad. I'm not saying let's just put it this way. There's bad people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. But there were mostly bad people in this field, or maybe it was me because it was so close to me. Nobody could do a good enough job, So anyway, some of them wouldn't do the insulin shots. So how am I going to drive 3 hours away when she needed insulin 4 times a day? Anyway, so I grieved when I found out the diagnoses. In addition to grieving, I was stressed out about work and being a caregiver. I was quite young to be a primary caregiver with no help. So I didn't have the coping skills. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't taking care of myself, and I crashed and burned. I resigned because I had respect for my boss, and I told her, I'm not doing you guys any justice right now. I'm just not. So that was it. And then I, just lost myself, because who was I? I didn't know. And I went off the chair. I went a little, so I don't know. So I tried to seek resources again and again. I was disappointed. I feel like sometimes therapists will see you forever and just charge you without ever saying, hey, look, are we getting anywhere? Which really annoyed me. So once I started getting better, I went to school for life coaching, because I really, what appealed to me was the goal-oriented and nature and results-driven. So they weren't going to see you and stare at the clock at the corner of their eye, or the clock's behind you and they go like that, So we pick up on these things. And then there's the other people who go to therapy that I think we all know one or two of them who have gone for 30 years, and we're like, where? How? What? Maybe you should have fired her 30 years ago. But anyway, so I just don't like that. So when I discovered this technique, it resonated with me, and I applied it to myself, and it was life-changing. And I'm not a salesperson, I'll tell you that right now. I absolutely, it changed my life, because I thought I was damaged. That was it. That's it. What else? Nobody can help me. Nobody can help me. I was a victim. Nobody can help me. But I healed myself. So, I'm not going to lie. It takes as long as it takes to develop any habit, which is 3 cycles of 21 days. And it took a lot of perseverance and diligence, but I did it. I had some support at the time, so it was easier. So I will let you know, I'm saying mind management, but it's so much more. It's like you become self-aware. That's why this pertains to leadership development, because that is the primary, the number one characteristic that determines whether someone's going to be successful, and that you need to be skilled at to lead. You need to be self-aware. You need to be aware of your decisions, aware of how you're speaking to people, aware of how you're reacting, and manage your emotions. And that's another thing. So it teaches you how to regulate your emotions. And as it's doing this, so you're implementing 10 minutes a day of mind management work. And if you stick around, I'm going to tell you what to do. And it's really not hard at all. The problem is you start feeling better. This is the problem, after like 4 or 5 days, and you're like, wow, I've got this. I don't need to do it anymore. And then, but you've got to push through it. So I have a coaching program. If you need help, I have a free Facebook page where I help people for free do the 10-minute mind management exercise. There's support out there for it. But really, what is 63 days when your whole life, well, my whole life, I'm not going to speak for you, was, I was just a mental mess. And now I know when you tell yourself, I have no control of my mind, I lost control. You literally just said, oh, you lost control. You may as well just give up then. So anyway, so as you are tuning into your emotions, learning to self-regulate them by, guess what? You're confronting your negative emotions. You're not medicating them and masking them. You're not denying them, ignoring them. You're literally confronting them. And that sounds scary to somebody with anxiety, because it was, and it doesn't feel good at first, but when you use the steps to analyze and break it down the correct way, you feel the anxiety like dissipate and break away. It's just such an amazing coping skill, because you could use it for that, but you also use it for stress management. So that's another skill that you need to excel at if you're going to lead a team. So communication. What is the foundation of communication? Confidence. I mean, you have to be confident. So I fortunately had the luxury of experiencing just about every negative emotion that exists, including social anxiety, which when I was younger, that was a nightmare. So I know now it was lack of confidence. So this technique also teaches you a process to, it's basically unwire out the negative and rewire the positive by monitoring your thoughts, but there's a methodical way to do it. So you're also creating a healthy default thought pattern. Did you? Great. Digest that. A healthy default thought pattern. So, for example, you know how they say, and they even said this when I was in school, the norm is you could hear 10 compliments, but if you hear one, I just botched it. You need 10 compliments to make up for one negative comment. Well, that's true if you have a negative default thought network. But if you have a positive default thought network, that's not true. Because I'll tell you right now, you start to understand that not everyone's gonna like you. And you don't like everybody. So be honest with yourself. That's a huge, huge must in this during this technique, is to be honest with yourself. So you don't like everybody, and not everybody's gonna like you, and that's okay. So you as you become self-aware, you become accepting of yourself and your uniqueness. We're all unique. We all need to accept each other for being unique and understand we all have differences of opinions, and that's normal and okay. Again, it doesn't mean you have to like somebody, but it doesn't mean that you have, it's okay for someone to have their own opinion, and it's okay for you not to like it. So the worst thing is when somebody, somebody's different, or you're intimidated or threatened by somebody who does things better than you. I mean, in the office or wherever. So it's a horrible feeling, and your behavior is noticeably changes also. So people, they don't say you're jealous of her, because I'm sure you're hiding okay. I'm sure you're pretty good at it right by now, but you need to understand that when you make decisions and when your behavior is coming from a position of positivity and good core values, people are aware of that. So I'm not contradicting myself by saying everyone needs to know. I'm saying when you're leading a team, you absolutely want to be respected by your team, and you want to model appropriate behavior. So that's why it's important. So Now, then, what else? Where was I going with that? Okay, so there's just so much to say about it. Okay, so the changes are just endless. So the reason why it's sustainable, as opposed to cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a mantra, meditation, that's not sustainable. Hypnosis is not sustainable because it's not restructuring the wiring in your brain. That's what needs to take place for lasting sustainable changes. So this is another component to the steps, is each step is designed for you to dig deeper into your unconscious mind and figure out, discover what the core belief that you have about yourself that's holding you back. So it's like, you're not just jealous and threatened of the coworker who's producing better, more results than you. There's something deeper than that. It didn't just happen when that person got hired, so there's something there. So maybe you were bullied as a child. That's could be very traumatic. Maybe it's abuse, and maybe you were told your whole life and then that you weren't good enough. So what did you do? You acted accordingly. So then you didn't believe you were good enough either, because you self-fulfilling prophecy, you proved it. Yeah, you want to see that I'm bad? Look how bad I can be, and then you believe it, and that is your core belief about yourself. So when your core belief is really negative, that's going to hinder you from reaching your full potential. So how this helps with that issue is you are redesigning those past traumatic events. So like, for example, say you were bullied. Now, with your adult mind, you can go back and say, my clothes weren't ugly, or my lunchbox wasn't babyish, or who knows, whatever you were told. You could say that child came from maybe an abusive home. Maybe they, you can look at it from a different angle and redesign that memory so it's not traumatic anymore for you. And say your trauma was even more significant than that. It doesn't help you to hold on to the abuse, because of the law of quantum physics. When you don't forgive somebody for harming you, you are glued to that person and you are tied together. So you are literally keeping that abuser next to you, and it's who's continuing to harm you. So, okay, or another situation may be that you feel guilty, you didn't do something, maybe you didn't do something right, and you're like, I'm such a bad person, look at how I behaved or didn't behave, or so does it tell people that you're sorry to go out and self-sabotage and to make more poor decisions? Who is that? Who is that helping? It's not helping you. It's not helping the people that you think you hurt. I'm sure those people want you to stop and to do well for yourself. So there's so many, we're all so different that we all have different hindering beliefs that are limiting us. So I would absolutely say that at the core of most people's issues, everyone that I spoke to anyway, is low self-worth. So I believe, when you increase your self-esteem, things do fall into place. Like I said, with the communication and just not worrying about people liking you and just being yourself and not being jealous, and all these things fall into place. But how do you increase your self-esteem? Through this process. So you start to become in tune with your emotions, and when you're in tune with your emotions, you develop a self-acceptance, and from there you learn to self-regulate. And there's a lot of self this, self that, but it's true. Self-awareness, and you literally start cultivating habitual, healthy inner dialogue, because you are what you think you are. I don't know what the exact saying is, but that's pretty on point. You are what you think you are. If you think you're nothing and you're never going to amount to anything, guess what? So, however, if you think that you are successful and you've already made it, well, you're there. So, okay. It's 25 minutes. Next time I will tell you what the process is. Just know that you are going to start monitoring every thought right now and challenge any thought that is negative by replacing it with the most positive but believable version of that thought. For instance, if you tell yourself, if you catch yourself talking negatively, make sure you say, that's not who I am, that's who I become. You don't want to lie to yourself, because you need to be honest to get those patterns, those neural networks restructured. And then the magic number 7. So every time you get in a comfortable emotion, you're going to have to think of a replacement thought to confront that emotion. And I think a good idea is to program it in your phone every hour, 7 hours. But these don't mean anything to you right now, because I haven't taught you the 5 steps. So next video, I will teach you the 5 steps, start implementing, and you will feel better in about 3-4 days. Then you plateau, then you feel better, then you plateau, and it's a process. But you're rewiring out the negativity, and it works. And I'm living proof, and I have lots of clients that are. And the science is called neuroplasticity and neuroscience, and the study of thought and mind and brain research. So I'll see you all later.